Hello everyone, my name is Mike and you're watching Polymath Unlimited. So the other day I decided to do something a little different for this channel. We played through a game called Myst, which is the first game in a series of games that's probably my favorite game series of all time. It's a series of puzzle adventure games that was started back in the 90s by a developer by the name of Cyan Worlds. Um, yeah, just a narrative puzzle adventure going through and solving puzzles, figuring out the story. It was a good time. At the end of that video, I kind of said that maybe we'd do some of the sequels on this channel. And, particularly this game we're going to play today. This one is Riven. Riven is my favorite game of all time, and so when I get the itch to play it, there's really no other game for me that scratches that itch. Um, so I decided, well, I wanted to play it anyway, so I might as well make a video for the channel on it. Um, yeah, this game takes place pretty much right after the events of Myst. So right after we find Atrus in Dunny and give him his page and free him to go burn his son's books. This is all happening right after that. Um, this game, as we'll see, is like way well, like the quality of just everything about this game is way better than the original game, I think. Basically, what happened is Myst was wildly more successful than the developers were expecting and probably than it had any right to be. So they made a ton of money off of Myst. And so they decided, you know what, let's just pour all of this money that we made from Myst and make a sequel. And that resulted in this just absolute gem of a game. For anyone just joining, no, this will not be a blind playthrough. Um, as I said for the Myst playthrough, I'm pretty much a walking hint guide for this game, so I know pretty much everything there is to know about it. Um, so yeah, if you're looking for a blind playthrough, this is not it. But, I'm still going to be providing commentary and we'll go through and look at things as we go through the game, go through the puzzle solutions, take a look at the lore, everything that makes this game tick. Uh, so yeah, well, let's just get right in here. Start new game. Yeah, I don't care about unsaved progress. There we go. Yeah, already the whole like just vibe of everything is much more polished and cohesive than Myst was, at least to me.
Thank God you've returned. I need your help.
There's Atrus.
There's a great deal of history that you should know. But I'm afraid that I must continue my writing. Here. Most of what you'll need to know is in there. Keep it well hidden. For all reasons you'll discover, I can't send you to Riven with a way out. But I can give you this. It appears to be a linking book back here to Dunny. But it's actually a one-man prison. You'll need it, I'm afraid, to capture Gehn. Once you've found Catherine, signal me. come with a linking book to bring us back. There's also a chance, if this all goes well, that I might be able to get you back to the place that you came from.
And we're immediately trapped.
Yo? Mafia Kakaware po. Namudugoy po men po. Tagema. Rekoa. Tagema musu rekoa. Misirapo. Mutika boku wa nai. Misirapo. Mutika boku wa nai. Boku wa nai. Misirapo. Boku wa nai. Boku wa nai. Boku wa nai.
Oh, he just took our book. All right. So yeah, here we are on Riven. Already you can see that just the graphics and everything is way higher quality than what Myst was. To be fair, this was made about 4 years after the original game, so there was probably some advancements as far as the technology goes that they were able to use to get this. But this is pretty darn near photorealistic. Like, a lot of these shots in the game, like, they could almost be photographs, which is really something. Now here's the dude that initially took our book from us, and then the other guy came and shot him and took the book from him, and now he's off somewhere. So yeah, right off the bat, we've got a few goals that Atrus gave us. Goal number 1, rescue Catherine. Goal number 2, trap Gehn in that book that he gave us, but that's going to be a little bit of a problem because that trap book that we got given is no longer in our possession. So we're going to have to do something about that. And then goal number 3, once all that is done, we need to somehow signal him and he'll come and get us out of here. And also, he said that he might be able to get us home when all is said and done, which is nice of him. So yeah, let's just go ahead and... Oh, you know what we should do first? So we should read some lore. Um, the books that you could read in the original Myst, uh, they provided some interesting lore, interesting context, but for the most part, they weren't really necessary to understand the game, really. That is absolutely not the case in Riven. They did a much better job of integrating the lore into the game's world and into the game's puzzles. So reading through the journals is absolutely essential if you're to understand how to solve the puzzles and how to beat the game. Um, so yeah, let's just right off the bat, let's go ahead and read this journal that Atrus gave us. And if you want to skip ahead, that's fine. I get not everybody's into reading everything and everything, but I'm gonna go ahead and read it because like I said, the lore here is a lot more important than it was in the original game. Okay, we're gonna start with 87.610. They held for more than 30 years, but the corrections I made to Riven have finally failed. The island has resumed the familiar pattern of decay that is the hallmark of my father's work. I must now race to implement this new patch before it's too late. I only hope that my revised theories are sound. 87.616. Revisions to Riven completed. There are still a number of minor adjustments which need to be made, but the basic corrections have been entered and should be working. Something's not right. I've been monitoring the instruments for several hours now, but have thus far observed no change. It's possible that I've made an error, though I've checked my entry against my pre-notation and can find no discrepancy. I've not had a rest in nearly 3 days, so it may be that I'm just not seeing it. If the fault is with my foundational assumptions, however, perhaps after a short rest I will see something. Success, or 87.618. Success. It appears that my repairs have been effective after all. The gateway image has become noticeably clearer, and although it is impossible to know this with absolute certainty, the island seems to have quieted itself. Just a few more weeks of work and I should be free at last to go there myself and attempt to bring Catherine back. The past 8 months have left me little time to think, to devise a strategy for getting her out of there. I've received no sign from her in all that time. I'm afraid that... No, I must assume that she is all right, lest my fears undermine my efforts to bring her back. 87.619. I did not create the Age of Riven. Unlike my father, I have never presumed to have such power, and yet the future of all those who live there has fallen into my hands. So far I've managed to read the page before it turns. The island continues to appear stable, and I would like to believe that I have saved a dying world, but the theories of one individual cannot support the lives of real people indefinitely. I must get everyone off of Riven as soon as possible. The problem now is Gehn. Yeah, that's that name that he mentioned in the introduction. I'll never be able to rescue Catherine and relocate the islanders if he is still the man he once was. I haven't seen him in over 30 years, but his history forces me to assume that he is still a threat. His myopic mission to restore the Dunny civilization has left too many innocent cultures dying in its wake, and would continue to do so were he to once again be free of the confines of Riven, or the Fifth Age as he coldly titled it. The universe has been safe from his corruptive influence for the last 33 years, because no one has been able to leave that age, the last linking book out of Riven having been lost in the Star Fissure upon my return to Myst. That was my intention, to maroon my father on Riven by removing all existing links to other worlds. And since the art of constructing books had long been lost with the fall of the Dunny, he would be trapped there for the remainder of his lifetime, and effectively segregated from the countless other worlds that he would have invaded. In effect, that is what we achieved, but the way it fell, however, was no one's ideal. Though the sting of the incident has gradually faded from my memory, the deep pain of responsibility for what actually came to be has never left me. At the time, it all seemed so clear. Gehn's destructive path could not be allowed to continue. But it was never my choice that the innocent inhabitants of Riven, who had already suffered so much, would be the ones to pay for it. Enough. To dwell in the past is to die in the present. The situation is not the same as it was then. The knowledge I've acquired in the years since that time has yet to be applied to this problem. 87.620. I think I have the solution. Why it did not occur to me sooner, I do not know, unless the idea of it had been pushed out with the thought of my sons. A prison book. Many years ago, during a hunting expedition through the ruins of Dunny, I chanced upon a formula for a most unusual type of book. Unfortunately, due to the fact that my father was then in the habit of confiscating my discoveries, I was forced to leave it behind. Years later, however, as part of my efforts to protect the vulnerable worlds linked to the books in my library, I was pleased to find that I could still recall most of the formula, and with little experimentation quickly succeeded in creating one of these devices myself. The procedure is actually quite simple. By altering key lines of text but slightly, a normal linking books connection can be partially severed, such that anyone who attempts to use the book will be permanently trapped in the dark void of the link. That is, unless someone else then uses the book, at which point that person would become trapped, and the first person displaced back into the world. And that's basically just what happens if you give Cirrus and Achenar their final pages in the original Myst game. You'll switch places with them and be trapped in their book. We didn't go through those endings just because I'd been recording for a while by that point, but yeah, that's what would have happened. Let's continue on. The technique can be applied to books that have already been written, changes to the original text being so slight that anyone who is unfamiliar with the code will be unable to detect them. If indeed my father has not changed, what better bait could there be than a book that appeared to be a link back here to Dunny? Trouble. My nightly analysis of the island's condition has revealed that the tremors have begun again. The pattern, however, is new. The disturbances are the result of the changes I have made. This did not at first concern me, however. Tremors of this type were one of the possible side effects that I had anticipated during this initial phase of the island's readjustment. Still, in order to verify my assumptions, I decided to calculate again, incorporating the new data. The results were not what I expected. The damage to the understructure is more extensive than I'd realized. I can no longer go to Riven as planned. Catherine, forgive me. I must act while I still have the time. The signs are barely visible, but there's no question that the island's deterioration is accelerating. Total collapse is imminent, unless I can keep ahead, and that is becoming increasingly difficult to do. With every passing moment, I gain a clearer picture of the incredible chaos that my father's economy of words has yielded, but it is a dismaying process. The complexity of the problem is overwhelming. There is no end to this. The last few days have all but convinced me that the collapse of Riven is inevitable, and that at best I can only strive to delay it now, and hope that at some point the island will become stable enough to risk a rescue attempt. 8777. I think I've come up with a way to subdue the tremors. It will require my exclusive attention for at least a month or two, so it may be necessary to discontinue these journal entries for a while. And then what is this, like 6 days later, 87-713? Something truly miraculous has happened. Beyond all conceivable probability, someone has finally found my lost Myst linking book and has freed me from this prison. I immediately realized that this could be the solution to my dilemma, and I believe my mysterious benefactor is willing to assist me. I'm still not sure it can work. The logistics of such a scheme are formidable, but the mere fact that it may now be possible for me to continue my repairs to Riven and yet proceed with my original intent to find Catherine has given me renewed hope. 87-716. The last few days have left me with little time to work out the remaining problems with sending someone else to Riven. It did occur to me, however, that if a way could be found to signal me once Gehn had been captured, it would no longer be necessary to take a real linking book to Riven, and risk the possibility of inadvertently releasing Gehn. The deteriorated state of the gateway image makes the use of a visual signal impossible, but the picture remains a reliable indicator of Riven's condition nonetheless. By measuring and interpreting variations in the noise patterns, I am still able to observe basic changes that occur in the age, even though I cannot see them. The problem is that my instruments can only detect changes that occur on a fundamental level, and it seems unlikely that an individual could affect such an elementary change from within an age. The idea may be foolish. Still, there is a known weakness that may be worth investigating, an anomaly that appears as a rift between two separate systems, the Star Fissure. But how, or even if this fact could be exploited, I cannot say. Sending someone to Riven also means that once I received the signal that they were ready to return, I would have to leave my writing in order to take a real linking book there myself. However, provided my father was safely out of the way, this should take very little time. After that, assuming the island does not incur much damage in my absence, it should then be a relatively simple matter to hold it together long enough for Catherine to return to Riven and evacuate the remaining islanders. Predetermining a signal without knowing the topography of the island may prove to be impossible, but I'm afraid there can be only one answer to the question of whether or not I should send my friend to Riven with a way out. The potential for failure will be greatly diminished if the prison book is all that is taken there. I'm sure my father is expecting me to bring a linking book to Riven. May he not be disappointed. Okay, so lots of really important information in there. So yeah, Gehn is Atrus's father. If we remember back in the first Myst game, the art of writing linking books is something that Atrus said he learned from his father, which we now know his name is Gehn. And yeah, Gehn is not a great guy. He basically writes these books. He has no idea what he's doing. All his worlds are unstable. They all fall apart eventually, and he kind of rules over them with an iron fist as kind of a god to be worshipped. So that's kind of the situation with him. And then it gives a little bit more context to the events in the introduction to Myst as well. Basically what happened is Atrus trapped Gehn on Riven, and then to keep Gehn from getting out, he threw himself into this Star Fissure, which we'll learn more about later, carrying his Myst book with him, and then linked out, leaving his book to fall through the fissure, which is how the Myst book eventually ended up where we found it in the first game at the beginning. So yeah, let's go ahead and start exploring. So we've got this way out here. We'll go there later. We've got this room here with this button that we can push, but let's just kind of go in here and take a look at some things. Kind of like Myst, this game does a really good job at like visual and environmental storytelling. Like these beetles here, the kind of stained glass or mosaics or whatever, just kind of tell what's going on here. So yeah, here we can see this figure, which presumably is Gehn writing in a book and all the things in the world coming from it. So this is kind of how Gehn sees himself, is, you know, hey, I'm making these linking books and creating these worlds because he doesn't really understand that that's not actually what's going on. The actual lore behind the linking books, and there's some novels that explain this a little bit, some like kind of spin-off novels, but yeah, you're just creating a link to a pre-existing world because there's infinite possibilities out there in the universe, so anything that can be written exists somewhere. But yeah, Gehn has a very inflated view of himself, so yeah, he's coming to Riven, posing as a god, people are worshipping him. Is this the next one? Yeah, so here we can see Atrus falling into the Star Fissure with the Myst book, and Gehn has kind of spun this as like, hey, I defeated Atrus and cast him down, even though in reality Atrus was the one that trapped Gehn here. But obviously Gehn doesn't want people to know that. And this is to do with the formation of like different guilds. Like there's the five guilds. I forget what they're all called. Like there's builders, like teachers, some sort of warriors. I think this is like the surveyors. Something to do with like paper. And yeah, this one is kind of our first glimpse of what Gehn is actually trying to do here. So he's trying to make a book so that he can get out of here. Which would not be good. Definitely want to stop him from being able to do that if we can. Because, like I said, he's not a good guy. So yeah, let's go ahead and see what this button does. If we go back in this room, we can see that this room has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sides. Just keep that in the back of our mind. So yeah, this button rotates this whole room. Kind of rotate it around until the other entrance comes back around to us. Yeah. At this point, we don't really know what any of this is for just yet. We're just kind of tinkering and exploring. Okay, so we can see that the other entrance come around to us. And since this is a 5-sided room, this entrance that we're standing in right now, it used to be over here on this left wall, and the entrance that was over here at first is now over at this right wall, opening up this other entrance. Or at least it would if this gate wasn't here. So yeah, both of the ways we can go here seem to be blocked off right now, so let's go ahead and explore a little more. We'll go here later. Let's go ahead and stick to over here for now. And we get down to this little plateau. And we've got a locked gate. And then we've got this kind of prominently placed dagger that kind of draws our eyes down here. Yeah, we can just straight up go underneath the gate. Can't unlock it from the other side, though. But yeah, let's see what's in here. And here we have another entrance to the rotating room. So there's 5 entrances to the rotating room, or 5 walls, I should say, to the rotating room. We know what 4 of them now lead to. One of them was the entrance we just were at. 2 of them are blocked off. There's this one in the cave, so there should be a 5th one somewhere else that maybe we can rotate the room around and access it from this side to get to. So let's go back and spin the room again, and then we can go back to the cave and see where that leads. Yeah, that cave is like off to the right, and now if we spin the room, this entrance will be off to the left, pointing at the side of the room that we haven't seen yet. So now if we go back to the cave, we should be able to go through the room from that direction and find a new place. And yep, sure enough. There's this thing here. That looks kind of like the device that we saw at the beginning. And then if we flip this lever, that redirects steam, presumably to this. So let's go ahead and leave that like that for now. And we've got a button that we can use to rotate the room. And we've got this lever here that we'll mess with in a minute. Yeah, one more time. Okay, now if we pull this lever, that opens that other gate that was closed before. We got another button to rotate the room and another lever. So this lever presumably opens that other gate that was closed. So now we can go ahead and see what's on the other side of that other gate by rotating this room back around. Which should, I think, put us back at the main entrance, and then we can rotate the room from there to put it in the position it was originally in to get through that door we couldn't get through before. Okay. So now we've got this great big gold dome in front of us that we can go into. Got all these pipes leading to various places. Got these 5 symbols here. So we'll just keep these in the back of our minds. Those will be important later. If we go down and around, let's see some more steam pipes. So we'll go ahead and route the power over there. And hopefully we'll be able to come around the other side of this and operate that from the other side. Got this platform here. Can't seem to do anything with that yet. And then we've got another steam pipe that presumably powers something somewhere else. Okay, so we've got some steam power turned on, which is good. And then there's this bridge that comes over from the other side. We're going to have to activate that from the other side, though. There's a little hand wheel that looks like it extends that over to here. And then this lever right here, this is really easy to miss if you're going through here a little too quickly, maybe, because it just kind of blends right in there. But let's just go ahead and see what that does. So yeah, that raises the bridge up. But unfortunately we can't really do anything with that yet because we need that bridge to be down in order to get back and forth through here. So maybe once we extend that other bridge we can do something with this, but we'll just keep this in the back of our mind that it's here. Because it will be important later. That's the thing about this game as opposed to Myst. The world and the puzzles here are much more deeply interconnected and interwoven with each other than the puzzles in Myst were. Because the puzzles in Myst, they were kind of isolated. Like you could just kind of stay in one place and solve them. That's not really the case here a lot of the times. Like there are some self-contained puzzles occasionally, but like puzzles like this, where like you can raise this bridge up, but you've got to be on the other side to make use of that, but you can't really get around to the other side while the bridge is raised up, so you've got to go like all the way around somewhere else to go do something to... Yeah, that kind of thing is very common in Riven. So we haven't explored over here yet. So let's go over here, because there's not really anything else we can do over there for the moment. But we'll just keep that big gold dome in the back of our mind as a place that we can go to. Let's go in here later, because this place is really cool. So there's a closed door right here, and then this thing, like the art in Myst was cool, but this is just phenomenal. Like, just look at that. Just the whole vibe going on here is just completely unique. Like, I don't really know of any other game that like looks or feels like this. Just the art style and the art direction is just really, really well done. We've got some kind of food offerings. So this appears to be some sort of worship area. Maybe where Gehn has people come to worship him or whatever. So yeah, let's go back here now. And we can see there's this chair that looks suspiciously like that big kind of globe device that we saw out in the temple room. And we can close it around ourselves. It looks like there's a microphone in front of us. And we can power something up. Puzzle-wise, there's not really a lot we can do with this. But that's another one of those things about this game, is there's a lot of things in this game that exist in the world, not necessarily to be a puzzle to solve, but just because, like, that's how the world works. And we might figure out what this is for and stuff later on. But if we come over here, we can open up this door that was closed to us earlier. So now that opens up a new path for us to explore. Okay, so we've got this thing here. We've got a button. See what that does. And we got something coming towards us. Yeah, when I was a really little kid, like, seeing this thing, like, I wanted this thing specifically to be real so badly. Like, just in my little kid mind, like, that's all I wanted, was just to have one of these things to ride in. And we'll see where this takes us. Okay, so that puts us out here. By the way, in the original game, like back in 1997 when this came out, This game released on 5 CD-ROMs. So like each location or each like area of the game was like on its own separate CD-ROM. So like at the end of this little tram ride, like there would be a little message that popped up. Your disc tray would open and it would say like, please insert disc like 3 or whatever. I don't remember exactly which one it was. It's been so long since I've played like the original version of this game. But yeah, every time you went to a new place, you would have to like put a new disc in because that's just how they did things back in the day. So yeah, we got this little thing over here. It makes a sound, and it's got that little KI symbol, which we'll have to figure out what that's all about. Yeah, weird little sounds and weird little symbols. That can't be important, right? I'm sure we can ignore that. Let's see, which way do we want to go first? I think let's go right first. We got a forest over here. Got a bunch of chopped down trees, which makes sense because, you know, you need wood to make paper to make books, which is what Gehn's trying to do. That's where we were. That's like the area that we were at first. There's the big gold dome, the bridge that we routed power to. There's the little tram station, I think is what that is. It's kind of hard to tell because we're so far away. But yeah, let's just kind of go through here. Got a little bug we can look at. Looks kind of like the big golden scarabs in the rotating room. Yeah. Bye, dude. Let's go in here. And we've got a fork, so let's go ahead and take the right fork first. We've got what appears to be like an idol of a fish with like big tusks or horns on it. Yeah, he looks pretty grumpy. Again, I'm sure that's not important. You know, that can't possibly be important, right? I'm sure we can ignore that. We've got a guard tower right there. He's going to signal the alarm. Stranger danger and all that. That's another thing that's different about this game is there's more, like the world of Riven just feels much more alive than Myst did. And narratively that made sense for Myst, you know, because all the ages have been like ransacked and destroyed and pillaged by the two brothers. But here there's like actually people that are like actively inhabiting this world while we're exploring it. And as we'll see, they don't really seem too fond of the fact that there's some strange dude wandering around messing with everything. Yeah, we can see there's people up on the catwalks and stuff kind of running away from us. And there's a lady getting her kid away from us. Yeah, they do not want to have anything to do with us. And who can blame them, right? You know, really the only stranger they've had significant interaction with is Gehn, and we know he's not a very nice dude, so it makes sense that they wouldn't really want to have anything to do with another stranger. Yeah, there's this lake here with all these air pockets in it. We'll learn more about that later. And there's this door with a knocker we can knock on. Yeah, we've just knocked 5 times. 5 is a big thing in this game. Like, if you haven't noticed already, like that. Oh, yep, hello. She's like, nope, go away. But yeah, the rotating room had 5 sides on it. Those symbols that we saw in the big golden dome, there were 5 of those. The big golden dome had 5 pipes coming out of it, or coming out of the middle of it. If we knock 5 times on that door, the lady comes out and looks at us. So yeah, five is a big thing in this game. Things tend to come in fives. So we've got this kind of vehicle looking thing that we can look at. But we can't do anything with it just yet. So let's go ahead and come back out here. And then we can pull this or push this lever, I guess, and that sends this down somewhere. And that sent it down to here, so we're going to have to figure out how to get down there from somewhere else. But yeah, let's just keep exploring. Exploration is a big thing in this game, like to an even greater extent than it was in Myst. Just the world of Riven is so much like larger in scope than Myst was. Again, in part due to the fact that they had a lot more budget, a lot more funding because of all the money they made from Myst to be able to actually build all of this. Interestingly enough, little kind of side note while we're kind of going back the way we came. One of the art directors for this game, Richard Vanderwend, he was not involved in the original Myst. They hired him on to help out with Riven. But he had done some work previously before working on Riven at like Disney. Like he did some work on Aladdin for Disney. He did some work for ILM. And so a lot of the just really unique art style, from what I understand, was kind of his doing, and that's kind of why Riven just stands out as just so unique, even from like the original Myst, as far as the art style goes. So I don't know if you guys find that kind of thing interesting, but I find it interesting. Yeah, there's these little guys here. Yeah, if we go too fast and sneak up on these guys, then they'll run away from us. But if we go kind of slow... Yeah, so they make that noise at us. Again, I'm sure sounds aren't important in this game, right? Probably won't have to remember the sound that those creatures make. And then we've got another one of these eye things here. And it's got a different symbol on it from the other one, and it makes a different sound. So we're going to want to make a note of that symbol and that sound. Let's keep going. Keep going. There's another little guard tower. It's not going to alert anybody, though, because they already know we're here. There's another one of these eye things. And that sounds an awful lot like the beetle that we saw earlier. So these sounds that the orbs are making presumably are sounds of different animals. So we're going to want to associate these sounds with the different animals that we see. And it's got a different symbol on it as well. Yeah, here's the submarine. go forward and see where it takes us. This was another thing that I just really wanted to be real when I was a kid playing this. Like, just a submarine that goes on tracks underwater, like, that was so cool to me. Yeah, let's see if we can get out here. Doesn't look like we can. We'll see if we can keep going. It looks like we can. Yeah, now we haven't really messed with any of the other controls yet. We can't get out of here because we're in the water. Let's just go ahead and... see where this is. And this is back where we first came in. So we made a big loop. So let's see what some of these other controls do. So that one turns us around. This one doesn't appear to do anything yet. Let's go forward again. Should be able to get out here. Yep. We got this ladder that goes up to this little post here. And from here we can see the whole lake and all the tracks and everything. So yeah, if we look at these little ladders, obviously the one that we just came up is extended, so we can get in on it. That one's not. That one's not. That one's where we started. That one is, which is what let us get in here. So we've got all these levers. We've got 2 extended ladders right now and 2 levers that are pointed up. So if we put all of these up, that should extend all the ladders. And yeah, that one's extended now, that one's extended. That one's kind of hard to see, but presumably that one's extended. So yeah, we should have access to everything with the submarine now. And we can't go any farther forward here. Let's go back the way we came. every time we've hit a switch, we've gone right, and this lever is pointing right. So if we point it to the left, it should make us go on the left branch, which we haven't gone down yet. Okay, so let's see where this is. Okay, so yeah, this is a place that we only have access to through the submarine. This is what appears to be some kind of schoolroom. Some kind of language that we can't understand. We have an alphabet here. Interestingly, and this was actually a mistake that made it into the final game, these two letters are identical. And they're not supposed to be identical. These are supposed to be different letters. So whenever they were building the environments of this game, like somebody accidentally like applied the same texture to both of these, even though they weren't supposed to. It's just kind of a funny little thing. And we've got this thing here. We got more of these symbols. That went down 7 times. We'll just keep that in the back of our mind. So that gave us the same symbol, and it went down 7 times again. Down 8 times in this different symbol. So yeah, what this is it gives us a symbol. It drops this little dude down a certain number of clicks. And these symbols look a lot like very similar to the symbols that we've seen on those eye orbs, which kind of tells us that those symbols are numbers. And this little thing here is telling us which numbers are which. So that's 2. And that's the symbol that we saw on the orb that made the beetle sound. So we should associate the beetle with the number 2. We'll just keep that in the back of our mind. And he got ate by the fish, so we don't actually know what symbol that is. Because yeah, it could have gone down farther if he didn't get eaten. There's 9. And that's 9 again. And then rather than just sitting through all of this and getting each of them, I already know what all the numbers are. So I might just like do a screen overlay real quick when I go back and edit this, just kind of saying which numbers are which, just to kind of save a little time. But yeah, you get the idea. This is how we learn how the numbering system in this game works. So you can get all the numbers from 1 to 10 this way. Oh, hold on. Before we go out of here, there's one more thing we can do. This is another one of those things that's not like a puzzle per se, but just an interesting little thing. This looks a lot like that temple, like the thing inside that temple, and the chair with the like little cage around it looks a lot like that.
Terekoi Danni, Ki Bayem Revat, Alroyem Betik Tavom, Gabodona Gayem.
So yeah, there's our first look at Gehn. And that tells us that what these things are is little holographic projectors. So that kind of tells us that maybe like that chair that is like next to the temple and that thing in the temple is probably a holographic projector, so you can like sit in that chair and like project yourself into the temple maybe. Kind of a little bit of a Wizard of Oz type thing going here. So yeah, we can't go any further forward, so we'll go back the way we came. Let's check out some of these other places that we weren't able to access before because the ladders were not extended. Okay, and we're already pointing left, which is where we want to go. So this is something, which we'll have to figure out what this is for. We can pull this lever. We've got what looks like a set of manacles. So maybe they would like hang somebody from there and lower them down. Yeah, not really much else we can do there for now. There's one more branch we haven't explored yet, and that's this one off here to the right. And this drops us off right next to the village. The same path that we were on before. So yeah, we'll just leave the submarine there because it'll put it in a convenient spot for us to come back for it later. Should we need to. So yeah, let's go back out here. There's one more thing we can look at in here, which we didn't look at earlier. This one's a little harder to spot. But like there's this big sword here. And if we look at this big sword, we can see there's kind of a hidden path down here, and that leads us to another one of these orbs. And that's the symbol for 4. And that's the sound that the creatures down in the lagoon make. So we should associate those creatures with the number 4 for some reason. Again, I'm sure that won't come up later. It's probably not important. We can probably ignore that. Yeah, there's not really a whole lot else for us left to do over here for now. This is really the only thing we haven't explored yet, this little minecart thing. So it looks like we're going to go for a ride real quick. Okay, so it's dropped us off on a new island. Got this lake here in the center with a bunch of pipes going everywhere. Got a lever that doesn't do anything. And we've got what appears to be a wood chipper, which makes sense because, you know, the minecart came from that chopped down forest. So presumably what would happen is they would chop up a bunch of wood, put it in the minecart, send it over here to the wood chipper to get made into wood chips. And we've got this boiler over here. And this, I think, is to make pulp to make paper out of. And that's how you make wood pulp. Just boil it in water with, you know, enzymes and chemicals and stuff. And that turns the wood into pulp so you can make paper out of it. Which you need to make books, which Gehn is trying to do so you can break out of here. Interestingly enough, we haven't run into Gehn yet. So we'll have to figure out what's up with that. We got this lever here. Let's put it over here to see. This should now be powered. Yeah, good thing it wasn't doing that when we fell in there. Okay. Let's try this second pipe. Now it's routed over here to this boiler thing. Let's see what we can do with that. So we've got this pipe splitter here, which appears to send power one of two directions. We've got a lever here. That turns off the heat source for the boiler, so the water's not boiling anymore. Now the pressure's routed up to this pipe here, which is going to this device, so presumably this is getting power. So we can go ahead and do that. Now this other pipe goes up to this lever here. So we can send power over there and then we can operate that. Which raises the floor up. Now we should be able to go in here. This door will actually open regardless of most everything we did. The only thing you have to do to get this door to open is turn the heat off. It won't open here if it's got the heat on. But raising the floor and draining the water, what that'll allow us to do is go down this drainage pipe. It's kind of dark, so we can't really see what we're doing, but if we just click through it, we'll eventually come out the other side. That'll bring us up here. Get a nice view of what's going on over here. We've got a hatch that we can open to go back down. We could actually access this ladder before we did all this, but this hatch is locked from this side, so we wouldn't have been able to get up here doing this. We had to go through the boiler to access this area. And we've got this path over here with what looks like a building. So we'll have to figure out how to get there eventually. Got a fan that's going. Got a lever that doesn't do anything. And we can put this pellet on. But we had that third position on this switch down here. So let's go ahead and switch that switch back to that third position, which is what it was on initially. But we had to change it to this middle position in order to get through the boiler. So let's put it back. Oh, what the heck? My mouse was being all janky for some reason. So yeah, that third position should power on that device in here. So we can send this down. Doesn't appear to have done anything. Yeah, this looks like some kind of pressure plate that it's on. And yeah, that pressure plate closes the thing. So this is evidently some kind of trap. So if we leave this open and leave it down there for long enough, hopefully it'll catch something and we can come back and see what it caught later. So let's just leave that down there for now. So now what we need to do is we need to figure out how to get over here. And that's actually a lot simpler than it seems. That path is over here. So if we close these doors, it opens up two side paths that the doors were covering. And that takes, oftentimes, a lot of people, it takes them a long time to figure out that these side paths are here. Like, I've seen people take, like, literal hours of just, like, wandering around before they think to check behind those doors. Yeah, let's go ahead and see what's down here. And we have this spinning dome with all these eye symbols on it. One of those symbols is yellow. It's kind of spinning fast enough that I can't really tell which symbol that is. And there's kind of a hole in the wall here, which indicates that there might be something back there. So let's close this door, and yep, they pulled the same trick twice. Gotta look behind the door. Yeah, after playing Riven, like every other Myst game after that, I'll always check behind the doors, because you never know, something might be hidden behind them. Yeah, so this is some kind of scope that is looking at the symbols on the domes. There's this button we can push on top, and when we push it right on the golden symbol, stops the dome, and you can see that that symbol is just a circle with a vertical line on it. So we'll keep that in the back of our mind, that symbol opens this dome. Again, I'm sure that won't be important later. So now that this is open, we can see what's inside of it. Or can we? There's a combination lock. We don't have the code for this yet, so we can't really do anything with it. And then there's what appears to be a book in here. Uh-oh. That can't be good. So the only one making books here is Gehn. So maybe that's why we haven't seen him. Maybe he's off somewhere else in a book. We've got this lever here. Don't worry about that later. We've got this locked door. We've got this passage here, which leads to this other bridge that we routed power to earlier. See, it's this little thing down here. This is now routing power to the bridge. So now we should be able to lower this and gain access to the big gold dome from the other side. So now we've fully unlocked access to this area. And now that this is all connected and we can get around to the other side if we want, let's go ahead and raise that bridge up so we can do that later. So yeah, there's this gap in here, which is right above that platform that we couldn't do anything with earlier. If we press this button, closes the gap in the bridge. And then here, we have another way to access the rotating room. This is actually one of the entrances we unlocked before. We just didn't have access through this door here. But now we do. So what we can do now is we can actually use the rotating room to get around to the other side of that bridge that we just raised and see what's on top of the dome. Yeah, we need to rotate a couple more times. And if we come through here and rotate it a couple more times again, then we should be able to access the top of the dome. Okay, so now we've got access through this bridge, which used to lead down there, but now it leads up here because we raised it. And we've got this huge grid here. We can place different colored marbles on. Got 6 marbles, 6 different colors. And we got, if you notice these bolded lines, the outlines that they make is the same as the shapes we saw on the diagram down below. So that's got to be important. But unfortunately, we don't really have nearly enough information to solve this puzzle yet. Like, right now, we're basically just placing them randomly on the grid. So that's not going to do us any good. And then we've got this lever here. That we can use to lock everything down. But again, it's not going to do us any good because we don't have any way of telling if we've got those marbles in the right spots. So we'll have to leave this and come back to it later. For now, let's go ahead and spin the room back around again. Go back the way we came. once more. All right, let's go back through here. So there's one more thing we can check out here before we head out. And that's that little platform that's right below that. Yeah, see, now that gap is filled, and now there's a button here that we can press. That takes us down somewhere. We got another one of these spinning domes. More symbols on it. And the gold symbol on this one is different than the gold symbol on the other one. Nope, didn't quite get it. There we go. So that symbol was just a circle with a dot in the middle. And yep, we've got another book behind another safe. Or another combination lock. Which again, we don't have the combination for this yet, so we're not going to be able to do anything here. So let's go ahead and go back up. Go back around. Back to this third island. We still need to figure out how to get in here. There's this lever over here. Sounds like it turns something off. Turned the fan off. Yeah, I wonder why the sound effect for the fan is still going. That's interesting. See if we caught anything in here yet. I think we probably should have, because it's been a while. Yep, it's closed, and we sent it down there open, so let's see if we caught anything. It's a frog. And that sound that the frog made, it's the same sound as was on one of the eye orbs that we found on the second island. So, just to review, we've got numbers 2, 3, 4, and 5 for the eye orbs. We don't have number 1, so presumably we're going to find that one somewhere. Number 2 was the beetle. Number 3 was the one that made the same sound as this frog, so number 3 is this frog. Number 4 made the same sound as those creatures on the beach. Number 5 made a sound we haven't heard yet, so we'll have to keep our ears out for that. Okay, and now we're inside this building. Let's go ahead and unlock these doors real quick so we can get back in here later if we want. So yeah, if you just open these doors from the inside, they'll stay unlocked. So, and there's 2 of them. So we've got another way out we can go, and that'll lead somewhere new later. But first, let's go ahead and check out what all's in here. Some kind of lab or a workshop, it looks like. We got some kind of furnace right here. It's a book, but it's been burned, so it doesn't work. It's like maybe a failed attempt or something. And we've got some bookmaking supplies here. We've got a book, some sort of like book binding apparatus. He's looking at the grain of the wood. It's got 5 spokes on it. So again, with the 5, some kind of press. Some jars of something, more books on the shelf. Some frogs in jars. Got some eggs. Or maybe rocks or something. I actually don't know exactly what those are. Those have got to be eggs, right? Those look like eggs. There's that trap thing from earlier. Some sort of cartridges of something. And we've got a journal we can read and an eye orb over here. Let's read the journal first. And again, if this isn't your thing, you can go ahead and skip past until I'm done reading. But this is all going to be important information in here. 82-213. Let's just go ahead and compare that to the dates we have from Atrus's journal. So 87 is the year currently. And this is year 82, so this would be 5 years ago. 82-213. The latest ink formulation has proven a failure. Even when writing in my most promising books, I obtain only the barest glimmer of a connection. It is frustrating to expend so much effort creating a blank book, only to end up destroying it when it doesn't work. There are days when the lab is uncomfortably warm from the flames of these failed attempts. The further I refine each element, the formulations of the inks and papers, the physical dimensions of the books, the more I realize that the list of potential combinations is nearly infinite. It is during moments like these that I despair. Without access to Dunny, my long-term goals may never be accomplished. Nevertheless, there are avenues of research which remain to be explored. Yeah, so this is Gehn's journal because he's talking about trying to make books. 8258. I am discontinuing regular observations of the stars beneath the fissure. Although I've been able to track the dark cloud-like formations that migrate through the star field, and have proven that their paths are cyclical, without proper instrumentation it is pointless to continue. My general theory concerning the nature of the fissure has remained unaltered since it first appeared. It seems that the fabric of this age has been breached in a way that permits matter to be hospitably exchanged between 2 discrete but overlapping spaces. Much like a link, but the apparent physical contradictions surrounding this juncture defy logical reason. The great column of wind that was formed when the fissure first appeared suggests a vacuum as one might expect in space, yet my early experimentations revealed the presence of a breathable atmosphere. That Atrus and Catherine threw themselves into the void is further evidence that it might be safe to travel, but without knowing its true nature I cannot take the risk myself. It is also difficult to say what would happen if I were to reopen it after so long, but it is likely that the results would be catastrophic, given the changes that have occurred in this age since that time. Maintenance on the steam vent caps completed. 83-210. I am extremely pleased with the continued success of this system. I believe the construction to have been true to the Dunny designs of my memory, another example of the superiority of the Dunny technology. It is ironic that Atrus and Catherine unwittingly provided me with such a convenient source of power. As with many of my views over the years, my thoughts regarding the origin of the fissure have changed. I have recently begun to wonder whether it was actually an unexpected byproduct of the changes Catherine and Atrus wrote into this age during their escape. Certainly by casting their linking book into the void, they trapped me here quite effectively, but I do not believe that Atrus intended the book to be lost in this manner. Much better to destroy it than to risk the possibility of its falling into unknown hands, like ours. Also, had they foreseen the creation of the fissure, they would surely have thought that the vacuum it created would eventually consume the atmosphere of this planet, a fate which Catherine undoubtedly would have deemed unacceptable for her home world. If I had not been there to supervise the construction of the seal, this is most certainly what would have happened, for the villagers were far too frightened to even approach the vortex without my urging. I hold on to the belief that it was an unintended consequence of their writing for another reason as well. I prefer to think that my son had meant for this age to be merely a prison for me, rather than a death sentence. 83.5.14. The construction of the imagers has proceeded without fault. It is interesting to see how easily I've been able to adapt the Dunny technology to mimic that of the Imad. In some ways, the similarities between the two cultures was striking. I wonder if perhaps there had been communication or commerce between the two cultures in earlier times. Maybe Ketta's people were even descendants of the Dunny. It pleases me to think so. So yeah, there's that name Ketta. We'll just file that away in the back of our mind. We don't know anything about this name yet, but maybe it'll come up later. Note, it's possible that if I were to somehow able to supply the books with a power source of sufficient magnitude, I could suppress the variance enough to facilitate a solid link. It is doubtful that the geothermal cap generators could provide such an enormous surge. Perhaps I could adapt the fire marbles. I've been cataloging the natural elements of this age for nearly 30 years now, yet still I continue to find evidence of the Dunny's preoccupation with 5. As a boy, it was very clear to me that the number 5 had a special significance to the Dunny society. From the ancient heraldic emblems of the ruling elite to the humble homes of the commoners, it was ubiquitous. Its presence here is obviously a direct reflection of the minds that designed the texts that I used to compose this age. Further proof that through their art, the Dunny masters were indeed creating the marvelous worlds they wrote, and not, as many have mistakenly thought, merely building links to pre-existing worlds. Yeah, hubris much? While most of my constructions have been based on Dunny designs, I see now that the ones that I have imbued with the power of 5 are clearly the most beautiful, the most perfect, and, I believe, the most structurally sound. By the way, the stuff that he says up here, if we go back, where he's talking about the presence of 5 being a reflection of the minds that designed the text that he used to compose this age. So Gehn wrote Riven, and this is kind of a clue into his writing process. So he doesn't actually write anything original. He just kind of cobbles together things that other people have written, which is why all of his ages are unstable, because he writes a bunch of contradictions into all of his books, because he's just taking stuff that other people have already written without really understanding what it does. I'm still attempting to determine how the Dunny color symbology reflects this superior design principle. Although superficially it is based on a 6-color system, I am convinced that there has to be a deeper connection to 5. I will continue to investigate. And then these look familiar. These are the symbols that are on those spinning domes. So these have something to do with colors. We'll find out more out about that later. I finally, 83.911, I've finally made a breakthrough. I've succeeded in modifying the fire marbles to generate enough power to hold a descriptive linking book in a stable matrix. I have linked to a new world. Uh-oh, that can't be good. It is a harsh and desolate age, but is nonetheless well suited for my purposes. And so I have designated it that symbol, so some number. By studying it closely, I believe I will eventually be able to create a more appropriate age for us to resettle on. For now, I will build an office and set up my living quarters there, in order that I may conduct my experiments in safety and distraction. I must admit that I am proud of my work. To think that in such primitive conditions I have accomplished in 29 years what it took the original Dunny centuries to achieve. Note: repair outerwear for work on this world. The goggles may need to be redesigned altogether. 84.4.13. I have begun construction on a series of link sites for each island that will connect Riven with my new office on this number. The Survey Guild has finally completed the site location for each island according to my exact locations, or according to my exact specifications, and installation of the domes is underway at last. Work on the central power source got off to a bit of a bad start, I'm afraid, but the pace has picked up considerably since then, and I anticipate no further delays. I'm looking forward to finally having a civilized mode of transportation. We got these same 5 symbols that were in the big dome. We've got a picture of the big dome and the little dome with all that has the books inside. So yeah, this big dome is some kind of power source that's sending power to these smaller domes, which is powering the books. So that'll be important to keep in mind for later. Due to the rebels' continued disturbances, I've decided to install a coded access system into all of the domes. And we've got a bunch of numbers here. Some of these numbers we don't recognize yet. We'll have to see if we can figure out what all those numbers are here in a minute. I caught one of my assistants looking over this journal today. I'm glad I've chosen to write it in a language they cannot decipher. Note: discuss security with each guildmaster. No problems expected from the maintainers, educators, and surveyors. Question the bookmakers and builders more closely. 86-10-24. Today I heard several more reports of spirit sightings by some of the villagers. It seems that under Catherine's leadership, the rebels, or the Black Moiety as the villagers obstinately insist on referring to them, have attained a new level of sophistication in their terror tactics, and have renewed their campaign to intimidate the villagers into joining them, playing upon their shared superstitions. The villagers are certainly susceptible to this form of coercion, especially given of late the rebels' increasing acts of vandalism and theft. The Etrem traps have been steadily fruitful this year. Apparently the breakup of the islands has not adversely affected the subterranean ecosystems. Unfortunately, I imagine the rebels are experiencing a similarly generous harvest. No shortage of poison for their darts this season. Such morbid issues aside, the sudden availability has allowed me to refine a particularly pleasant extract for my pipe, one that is smoother than any of the others from recent years. So yeah, he's catching frogs in those traps, which are apparently called Etrems, and he's making drugs out of them and smoking them in his pipe. I mean, what else are you going to do if you're trapped in a place for however long? Chemical, or 87-329. Chemical analysis of one of the rebel knives has yielded curious results. Its composition contains elements that are unlike anything I've encountered on the islands. It appears they have access to a resource of which I am unaware. Perhaps a mine, or an uncharted island. Note: most of the knives have been found on the south side of the village. This is the same area in which there have been reports of people mysteriously disappearing. I think a closer inspection of the area is warranted. The fact that they leave these distinctive knives as a sign of their presence concerns me. They're growing more bold and seem to no longer fear discovery of their hideout. 87-627. The latest measurements indicate that the recent trend has continued. The movement of the islands has slowed tremendously. My previous estimates predicted a total collapse in approximately 3 months, but with the new figures I'm uncertain. I have nearly finished writing the, whatever this next number is, age, and I have every faith that it will indeed be a place for... And I have every faith that it will indeed be a safe place for us to relocate to. Yet it would be helpful to know what has caused the halt in this age's breakup. Is it possible that it's stable after all? If so, I must discover how this age differs from my less successful attempts. My examinations of the something age have thus far proven inconclusive. Or perhaps someone is repairing the damage to the 5th age. If so, it would almost certainly be Atrus' doing. I have reluctantly decided to abandon my experiments into the behavior of the water of this age, as there are more pressing matters on which I must now concentrate, leaving me little time for such speculative research. For future reference, however, my investigations up to this point have revealed the following. I believe the remarkable properties of the water to be caused by a life form that resides in it, specifically a type of bacteria. I am imagining a motile unicellular organism, but one with structures capable of holding onto bits of water, whose combined effect, via surface tension, a stronger force, causes the composite body of water to move in response to heat. Prolonged exposure to extreme heat, for example a period of extended boiling, seems to kill the bacteria, which would explain its dramatic aversion to heat sources. Unfortunately, these theories are still not fully tested, and I remain ignorant both of its deeper nature and its possible uses. 8776. An exciting development. Last night, a squad of maintainers stumbled upon a lone rebel scout and obtained from him a most incredible device. It is a crystal that somehow powers these flawed linking books, much as my own system does, but with an obvious advantage. It is small and weighs only a few pounds, making it completely portable. Catherine must have fabricated the device before I captured her, obviously with an explicit dunny schematic that she must have brought with her to this age. If only I'd had access to such a document all these years. Regardless, I can now concentrate solely on the writing of ages, and need no longer worry about building elaborate power supplies for each new book I write. This is a sobering reminder, however, that I must continue to seek an avenue to Dunny. Regaining access to the resources there may be crucial to the completion of my mission. And we've got a picture of something here. We'll just keep this in mind for later. So yeah, it seems Gehn has indeed successfully written a working linking book, which means he's probably wherever that other age is that he wrote. Yeah, so here's our number 1 eye. And there's this note about it here. 87728. Last week, while monitoring the situation of the villagers from the scope in my survey room, I observed one of the natives swim out to a small object that appeared to be floating but anchored near the entrance to the bay. I ordered the object removed from the water for inspection. Several days later, however, I was surprised to see another floating there. The missing object had apparently, and quite mysteriously, been replaced with a new one overnight. I have long been aware of the existence of similar artifacts on the villagers' island, but have paid them little notice until now. Tomorrow I shall send surveyors to catalog the others. So yeah, this was apparently floating in the water near the village. So let's see what we can figure out about these numbers. So yeah, here's the code for the domes. So we can see that we've got the number 3, but these other 4 symbols we don't recognize. But with a little bit of logic, we can figure out what these symbols are. So if we look at the numbers we have, 1 through 10, we should notice that there's a pretty clear pattern. We've got numbers 1 through 4, and then we've got 5, and then the numbers 6 through 9 are just combinations of the other numbers with 5. So like 6 is 5 and 1, 7 is 5 and 2, 8 is 5 and 3, and so on. So based on that information, it stands to reason that these 2 symbols here, which appear to be combinations of 10 and other numbers, so this would be 10 and 2 and 10 and 3. So this would be 12, this would be 13. So we have 3, 12, and 13, which just leaves these last 2 here. So if we extend that idea, if we notice the number 5 is just the number 1 but rotated, and the number 10 is just the number 2 but rotated. So it stands to reason that the number 3 rotated would be 15, and the number 4 rotated would be 20. So like once we hit 14, we've run out of numbers, so we've got to bump this rotated 2 up to a rotated 3 to be 15. So that means that this number here is 15 and 4, which is 19. And this number here is 20 and 4, which is 24. So that means our code is 3, 12, 13, 19, 24. So let me just write that down so I don't forget it. That was 3, 12, 13, 19, 24. That's the code to get into the domes, presumably. And then using this information, we should be able to decipher these other numbers that we saw. So like this one here is 9 and 8. But this isn't a base 10 system. Otherwise, these other complex numbers wouldn't exist. These would be combinations of 2 digits. So this is actually a base 25 system, because we got 1 through 24. So using that, this number would be 25 times 9 plus 8, which is 233. So this age is what he's calling his 233rd age, which makes this next age that he talks about the 234th age. So yeah, now we know how the numbering system works now completely. So let's go ahead and try out this combination here. And conveniently, we've got one of the spinning domes right down here that we can just head to real quick and test it out. Okay, so we want 24, 19, 13, 12, and 3. 3. There we go. Yep, we've got the 233 symbol on here. So this linking book presumably goes to age 233. We can see it doesn't work at all. And that's because we haven't activated the central power source yet. But we know that this code works, so there's that. Okay, now let's go back through the lab and go out that other door. And there's another tram system down here. And this one doesn't have a button to call the tram, or does it? We go back up to the office. Or the lab, I guess. This button here looks just like the button that we used to call the tram on the first island. So if we do that... Got turned around here. And that should call the tram to us. And yep, it's down there waiting for us. And we can see that this takes us to a 4th island. There's a door over here. We'll worry about that later. For now, we'll go out this way. And yeah, just look at this. Like, where else have you seen something like this before? Just such unique artwork in this game. There's a thing down there. And just the atmosphere in this game is really, really good. We've got an elevator that we can go up. And here again, we've got those same 5 shapes that have been kind of recurring, and these kind of sort of look like those shapes. Let's just go ahead and click on one of them. And that kind of causes the water to bubble up on the corresponding shape. And then back here, there's another spinning dome. Looks like the gold symbol is a circle with the vertical line, or the horizontal line, I mean. And then this little scope here, it's kind of been knocked off to the side, so we can't really see what it's supposed to be pointing at, so we just kind of got to spam it until it just happens to be correct. And then, yep, we got another book in there. Let's take a look in here. And yeah, we can see a 5x5 grid, a silhouette of that same shape that we clicked on out there. So let's see what these do. This pulls up a topographical map. Yeah, so that kind of tells us a few things. First of all, these shapes here represent the different islands, and there's 5 of them. As of course there are, because everything in this game comes in 5s. And we've been to 4 of them. There's the island that we started on, which is over here. There's the second island with the jungle and the village on it, it's over here. There's this third island that's got the lab on it and the boiler. And then there's this 4th island, which is where we're at now. And then there's a 5th island somewhere that we haven't been to. So let's maybe pull up that 5th island. And conveniently, the islands are arranged in the same way as they are here, so we can tell which island's which just by looking at these. Just have to wait for the animation to finish here. But like, for example, this... Come on, where's my mouse? There we go. This big square one here is this island out here. This is the starting island with the big dome on it. This is the village island out here. And then the one that we're on is right here. And then this is the 5th one we haven't been to, which is out somewhere way over that way. So yeah, let's see what this one looks like. We got what appears to be some kind of big tree stump. There's a dome here. Yeah, so we can kind of start piecing things together here now. So if we remember, on top of the big gold dome, there was that big grid, that big 25 by 25 grid that was divided into 5 by 5 sections. And here we have a map that's divided into 5 by 5 sections. And each island has a dome on it. And each of the domes has one of those eye symbols, which Gehn was saying related to colors. And we can put different colored marbles on that grid on top of the big gold dome. So what we need to do is we need to figure out where all the domes are. That'll tell us where we need to put the marbles. It won't tell us what colors go to which one yet. We'll still need to figure that out, but at least we can figure out which spots on the dome have marbles on them. So like this one is right here. So we'll just make a note of that. And then we can just kind of work our way around, figure out where all the domes are. Rotate around. See, that square doesn't have a dome on it. Here's the dome right here. So if I rotate this around, then that means the marble for this island should go in this large square right here in the top left corner of that square. Okay, so now that's that one. Yeah, and if we remember, so this is the island with the big crater lake and the lab and the boiler on it. And if we remember, the dome that's on this island is kind of underground. So that's what this is here. So yeah, the marble for this one is on this large square and up one and over one from the bottom left. We'll just make a note of that in our, either in our notes or in our brain. Now this one, you can see all those big spikes from where we came in on this island. Here's all the stuff out front there. Here's where we are right now, this kind of basin thing, lake thing. And the dome is right here. Yeah. Yeah, so it's on this large square and it's one down from the top left. And the last one is the big island. doesn't appear to be a dome on this one. On the square, I mean. That looks like a dome. Yep. Done went too far. Okay, so it's on this square, and it's one down and one over from the top right. Cool. So that's all we really need from up here. Now the only thing left to do as far as figuring out which marble actually goes where, the only thing left to do as far as figuring out which marble actually goes where is figuring out which colors are associated with which symbols, and therefore which colors are associated with which domes. So there's this door over here, and if we spin around, should be able to get out on the other side and get to that door. There we go. Yeah, such a cool vibe in this place. Clanking chains. See where this takes us. It's not ominous at all. We got a person, and he's running away. See where he's going. Yeah, he took our tram away. Call it back later because there's this other thing we need to look at. Getting major Stargate vibes from this room. Might actually look up, when did Stargate come out? Was that before or after this? Now I'm curious. Okay, so the original Stargate film came out in 1994, so yeah, before Riven. So I don't know, maybe that provided some artistic inspiration for that big window there. Who knows? I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case. So we've got two levers we can pull. It brings these scopes down. That turns on a light here. And we've got these color symbols around here. And if we notice, this symbol turns on a blue light. So that means that this is the symbol for blue. We haven't seen this symbol on any of the domes yet, though. Although there is one dome that we haven't found yet, because we haven't been to the 5th island. But there's 6 colors, so we'll have to figure that out. Okay, so this is the symbol for green. And this symbol is the symbol that we saw on the dome that's next to the big golden dome. So that means that the marble we place on the square for that island should be green. And this is yellow, which we also haven't seen on any domes yet. We got this symbol here, which is the symbol for orange. Hey, that sounds like that symbol from that eye orb, that sound from that eye orb. The one that's down on the beach, the number 5 eye orb. Yeah, this is symbol for orange, and that's the symbol that we saw on the dome that's on this island. This is red. Oh, something's coming. And yeah, that's definitely the sound we heard on that one eye orb, or on the 5 eye orb. So now we know what animal makes that sound. So whatever animal that is, that's what we should associate with the number 5. Yeah, so we know what animals are associated with 2, 3, 4, and 5. We still don't know which one is associated with the 1 symbol yet. Because the only way we were able to find that one is the one that Gehn took to his lab. Now, this one's broken. But there's 6 colors. And there were 6 colors up in at the grid in the Golden Dome. So the only color that we haven't seen yet on here is purple. So just kind of process of elimination, we can kind of surmise that this is the symbol for purple. And this is the symbol we saw on that underground dome. So the dome on that island is purple. And then we're back to blue. Okay, so we know what all the color symbols mean now, which means we do technically have enough information to solve that marble puzzle, which is great. And we have presumably Catherine. Yeah, he's kind of set up a little spy post so he can spy on her. He mentioned in his journal that he captured her, so this is probably her cell. We haven't been here yet. We need to figure out a way to get here, though, if we're going to rescue her like Atrus wants us to. And this initially doesn't really look like anything, but we can actually rotate this view. And yeah, this is the village. So he's got a little spy outpost in the village that you can go peep on the villagers. And yeah, this is a very prominent shape. And there's that. If we look carefully, we can see like the little circle here. That's the eye orb that got pulled out of the water that he mentioned in his note. So that kind of tells us that it's whatever animal is for this eye orb is kind of takes this shape. Like a little fish or something. Yeah, so now we know what all 5 of the eye orbs are too. So if we ever find where to put that information in, then we got all the information for that. Okay, let's go ahead and call our tram over here and see where this takes us. All right. We got some kind of elevator here. There's our button to call the tram back if we need to. And what have we here? And yep, this is that idol that we said was definitely not important. There's a passageway that comes out of him. There's this switch here that only really becomes visible once you step out of it. Like, if you know it's here, you can just kind of click on it and open it up, but it's really hard to know what's there if you don't know what's there. And so it's possible to access this from basically the beginning, but unless you already know it's there, then it's kind of hard to stumble on it. And then there's these marks on the elevator handle which indicate that maybe we can go higher. We've got a new path to explore. Got another spinning dome up here. Let's see which one this is. And that is red. So yeah, the dome on this island is red. Technically, you don't have to stop all these. I'm just doing it 'cause. Oh, yep, we got our little guard dude up there. He's going to do his stranger danger thing at us. We've got this little hut thing here. This takes us up. Gives us a pretty nice view of the village from up above. And then that lever closes the floor on that kind of manacle lower down thing. So let's maybe go there and see if we can do anything else with it now that that's closed. Let's go back down the elevator. And we're going to have to take the submarine to get there, which we left near the village, which is convenient. I think it should still be where we left it. If not, it'll just take a minute to reset it and get back. Oh, hello. Stranger danger. See if this is still where we left it. Yep, it is. Okay, so let's turn her around. One more. And yeah, now this floor is closed. So now we lower the manacles down. And we can climb on and ride them back up. Got a dude in there. Some kind of jail cell. Hey, dude. What's up? Can I have my mouse back? There we go. And if we go down this way, we can lower this ladder down. And that gives us a shortcut to back up, get back up here. So that way we don't have to use the submarine to get back up here again. We've got this thing here. That opens up the jail cell. And he's gone. Well, he couldn't have come out this way. We would have seen him if he did. So where did he go? Click on this drain here. We have a secret tunnel. Might see if I can find that soundbite from Last Airbender with the whole secret tunnel thing. I don't know if I'll do that, but we'll see. And we got these lights we can turn on down the length of the tunnel. And now that these lights are on, we can see this side door here that we couldn't see before. And that leads us to here. We've got all these stones with a whole bunch of different animals on them. Let's just push a few of them. So we can push down 5 of them, and then if we try to push down a 6th one, it resets. we've got 5 animals that we've got to push down. And if we recall, we had 5 eye orbs. Each of the eye orbs had an animal and a number associated with it. So those eye orbs should tell us which animals we need to push down and in which order. So the number 1 eye orb was the one we found in Gehn's lab. That was the one that he had pulled from the water, and he said he'd seen from his... and we could see it from the scope in his survey room. And when we looked through that scope, we saw a very prominent, like, fish shape etched in the rock. And that's this shape right here. So that's going to be our first one. And the rest of them are a little more straightforward because we actually had access to the eye orbs where they were supposed to be at. So number 2 was the beetle, and that's this one right here. Number 3 was the frog. That's this guy right here. Number 4 was those creatures by the beach. And that's these guys. And number 5 was the big tusked fish. Which is this guy right here. And we did something. That case had the rebel knife symbol on it. And this is a linking book with one of those crystal things that Gehn talked about in his journal that he found on a rebel scout. So presumably this is where the rebels are. And they don't like Gehn, and we don't like Gehn, so maybe we should go pay them a visit. We've got our first new age. Most of Riven takes place on Riven itself. So, you know, the fact that we're in another age now, something different. Got another linking book. Oh, hello. Not exactly the warm welcome we were expecting. Taking us to their hideout. Apparently they still don't trust us very much because they locked us up in a prison cell. There's people moving around in there. That's where we were. So yeah, we're inside that big tree-looking thing.
Katrina now da saya yapalo. Yapa ay manay yelepo. Miotisay. Bekaretere wirape yelo kenefalapo. Tisay. Why te fulupe?
Okay, so she came in and gave us some books. Pick those up now, we've got those. This one is a linking book. Looks like it goes back to Dunny. But if we remember, Atrus gave us a trap book that looked like it went back to Dunny. It was actually a trap book. And then the rebels came, Gehn's dude came along and stole it from us, and then the rebels stole it from him. Now the rebels just gave us this book. So this is probably that trap book that Atrus gave us. So we don't want to trap ourselves just yet. And we got this. Now this journal is a pretty long read. So again, if you want to skip to the end of this one, go for it. I'm going to read it though, because it's got lots of good information, important information, and it's interesting to read. But it is the longest one in the game, so, you know, buckle up. I linked to Riven a week ago. The smell of the place overwhelmed me moments before I could see anything. With my sight only partially cleared, I stood motionless, peering ahead through a dim veil which was slowly lifting. There was a violent clang and bars appeared. I remember breathing slowly and very deeply, tasting the familiar Riven air, but not recognizing a thing. I must have been hit with the dart right away. I thought it was an insect bite at first. I'm trying to remember it all, but it's difficult, maybe because of the drug. There was a voice. A man I did not recognize stood before me. Rivenese, though he was wearing dunny dress. He seemed to be talking to me, but the poison was already taking effect. A shadow crept in and I fell asleep. Then there were the many voices, but I understood none of them. Like hundreds of people whispering, I couldn't wake up. No matter, the dream did end. And now, to be here with Eddie. It's been so many years, I didn't realize how much I missed her. Like a piece of me that I've forgotten I'd lost. She's beautiful and so full of warmth, but the years have also left her with a wound that was not there when we were children. I do wish she were more interested. We'll read this note later. It seems I'm asking all the questions. It's awkward. No one asks me where I've been or what I've been doing. This hurts, but I understand it. Their beliefs are born out of ignorance and oppression. They are a gentle people, but they've had their nest destroyed, and now they frantically cling to anything that might save them. So this is Catherine's journal, by the way. This is Catherine writing. But why have they chosen to cling to me? I'm confused. As a child, I always felt out of place here. I never belonged. They misunderstood me, and I couldn't relate to them. But now I'm overwhelmed by an intense feeling that I owe everything to them and this place. I thought I would never see them again, and yet I'm here. I've been given this second chance. But a second chance at what? Saving them? Fulfilling their prophecies? Being their savior? The moiety. Atrus would want me to chronicle all that I've learned. I can at least record some of it. It seems that when Atrus and I trapped Gehn on Riven many years ago, our efforts were witnessed by most of the inhabitants here. 2 of the Rivenese even witnessed the confrontation with Gehn at the fissure, where I linked back to Myst, and where Atrus threw himself into the abyss. Of course, they understood little of what they were seeing, but they somehow were able to guess that we had won, that Gehn was no god at all, but only a feeble impostor, a false god, and that we had trapped him here on Riven. I always hoped they would deduce this simple truth, but their further conclusions have astonished me. Atrus had stripped Gehn of his power, therefore Atrus must be a true god. As a god, he was choosing me, the spiritual misfit from a Rivenese womb, to be his wife. I was transcending into deity and would lord over Riven forever. Thus, the moiety, as they call themselves, were born, a dissident society, sworn enemies of Gehn. I did not know of their beliefs regarding Atrus and myself until 2 days ago. Etty was, for some reason, hesitant to tell me. I can't figure out why. I know she doesn't believe these things. Of course, everyone else assumed that I would be aware of my own god status, so they made no effort to inform me. I only realized it at a recent gathering to which I was invited. I sat at the front of a dimly lit and crowded cave as they told a mythical story of my own life, acting out the battle between Atrus, myself, and Gehn at the edge of the fissure. The events had been exaggerated into grandiose proportions. It was offensive, but I was unable to stop it. I was unable to break the illusion which is the very foundation of their hope and purpose, and which has given them courage to band together and rebel against Gehn. Since then I've learned of other doctrines and beliefs which have evolved, the most disturbing of which is the conviction that one day I would return to Riven to free them. Some believe that I will overthrow Gehn, others believe that I will bring them to paradise. I don't know how to deal with this. I fight it myself. I love these people, my only real kindred, but they will not love me as an equal, which hurts me. I would rather be their slave than their master. Over the years, as Gehn's power has become greater and greater, the moiety's numbers have grown, and they have become more and more adept at hiding themselves. They now live in a complex network of caves that he still has not discovered. The moiety, for the most part, have completely severed their relationship with any of the Rivenese that chose against joining them. But I hope they've not sacrificed vital limbs in order to remove the cancer. Even Father and Enant are still on the surface in Gehn's domains, and I long to see them, but a dimness shrouds Eddie's face every time I've mentioned them. Since this break took place, they have interfered with the surface in superficial ways, occasionally sabotaging one of Gehn's constructions or stealing food from the villagers. They wear strange masks and costumes during their short forays to the island's surface, and take this regalia very seriously, refusing to be seen by anyone outside the moiety unless they are properly attired. They get much pleasure out of the fact that those on the surface are frightened by these costumes, calling them evil spirits or ghosts. It was during one of these expeditions that they fortuitously rescued me from one of Gehn's guards when I first appeared on the island. Otherwise, I'm sure I would have been delivered to Gehn immediately. I've no doubt that he's now searching for me. Of course, I'm now aware that I was fooled. Atrus is not here. I was at first devastated by this realization. Now I am thankful. He would be in extreme peril here. Also, there is a quiet inner voice, an echoing remnant that wants him far away. I have just witnessed an age dying, gasping its last breath. Today I ventured to the surface to see what has become of this island. I hoped it would not be as bad as the moiety had reported. It was worse. They have become slowly accustomed to its steady decay, but I was devastated. The lips from which the kiss is wrought has fallen words will fall cold breath. The womb from which the cry released has suffered hurt, will suffer death. To get to the surface, we had to travel through a complex series of doors and passages. Before the last set of those doors, they offered me a weapon, which I accepted, and then a mask. I held the mask in my hands for a while, wondering what sort of terror it might invoke on those members of my family who still live on the surface. But I also knew that I must keep my identity hidden from Gehn's ever-vigilant eye, so I accepted it as well. Then together we swam a short expanse and emerged out of the surface of the ocean under a rocky overhang. The harsh sunlight made my eyes sting, but the fresh, rich air was exhilarating after these past weeks in the dank caves. The two men with me were silent, communicating only with hand signals. The three of us emerged from our hiding place and made our way to the top of the plateau. At the edge of a thick and overgrown area of the forest, they stopped, peered through the foliage for a moment, and then turned to me as if awaiting my command. But I could not respond. In fact, I found it difficult to move. I was smelling, hearing, and breathing my youth. This swept over me in a matter of seconds, but in seconds more all feeling was gone. There was numbness. We did not stay long on the surface, but it was long enough to see the worst. Riven, which was once one island, has split apart into 5 distinct pieces, about half a mile apart. 4 of these have been claimed by Gehn as his exclusive domain. Only his ministers and personal militia are ever allowed access to them. From my vantage point at the edge of the forest, I could see 3 of these islands. They are stripped of their former beauty and are riddled with Genn's self-absorbed constructions. The moiety rarely visit these closely guarded places. There is another island which I could not see, as it had evidently crept away to a terrific distance. The moiety are very unclear as to what exists on this island, except for the fact that they know it is where the great tree used to exist. The forest is located on the island that the surface dwellers and the moiety still refer to as Riven, but they also still refer to their entire world as Riven. This island is where the village is, which has changed dramatically. It is also the one remaining province of the people, though Genn's influences can be seen everywhere. Of course, I know the reason for the fracturing of the islands. The moiety do not. Gehn wrote this place, and it will die, as all of Genn's ages eventually die. I feel nothing today. I am nothing. I live in a cave on a dying world inhabited by people that... They are treating me so strangely. They don't know how to relate to a god. I'm still an outcast here. They whisper amongst themselves, talking of my bravery during my excursion to the surface. How I walked across the island bold and unafraid. They don't know me. Even Eddie is uncomfortable around me. At times there is no awkwardness, and I am only Katran to her. But at other times I am something else. I am afraid. There's such a gaunt numbness inside me. Today I do not feel closeness with my people, neither am I offended by their worship of me. I do not hate Gehn. I don't feel anything. I'm not even sure of... At least Neela is still close. I am boiling. Gehn is making and writing books. I wish they had told me sooner. Atrus should have realized this would happen, of course. Gehn would have written all of the materials necessary to the dunny craft of making books into this age and probably every other age he ever wrote. He is attempting to write his way out of here. We did not imprison him. We only delayed him. This age has become his factory, and the people are his machines, all laboring in his mad pursuit to become a god, to carry on his noble dunny cause. So far he has not been able to produce a fully functional book. Atrus has never believed in destiny, but I don't know what else to call it. It's too perfect. It's too much of a coincidence. They hang on my every word, though they do not understand them. I am their hope, and now I've returned. I owe this to them. There is no choice. It's been a long time since my last entry. It's hard to recognize, but I found the Star Fissure. It's located on the island which the Rivenese call Alapo, meaning water pool, but which is referred to by the moiety as Alatuan, meaning pool of stars. Having once allowed Atrus to escape this age without leaving an open door behind us, it has since been sealed with a skin of heavy iron. A crude telescope has been mounted over a locked viewport, the combination to which was acquired by the moiety before my arrival. There's that device that we saw near the beginning of the game, so that's apparently the Star Fissure. And this code is 15445. In the early days, the moiety, seeking an escape from Riven, briefly pursued the idea of reopening the fissure. They discovered a small mechanical stop to prevent the scope from hitting the portal window. Ultimately, however, they decided against opening it. I hate to think what would have happened to them if they had not left it alone. I've instructed them to stay away from it. I'm almost certain that, with the decayed state of the islands, opening the fissure now would be disastrous. I have heard that in the days immediately following Genn's confinement on Riven, he attempted to determine the feasibility of navigating the stars beneath the fissure, for he had seen the Myst book fall from Atrus's hands into that very same space. To this end, he would have people, alleged transgressors of the law, thrown into it so that he could observe their fate. The telescope which still stands there is one he had built for these callous experiments. It is said that they did not die, but what became of them remains a mystery. It appears that the limits of Gehn's optics prevented him from learning their fate. The star field beneath the fissure is not as it seems. It is a gentle space, as hospitable to life as a flowing river. This is how Atrus explained it after he had fallen into it, but much more than that we've never understood. And we were never able to conclude upon its origins, but the visions tell me that it was born out of the will of the Maker, perhaps for some greater purpose that we cannot yet understand. I still remember Atrus's words from his journal. I realized the moment I fell into the fissure that the book would not be destroyed as I had planned. It continued falling into that starry expanse. Yeah, that's the narration at the beginning of the first Myst game. There must be some greater reason behind it. I neglected to mention it earlier. The unique shape of one of the great daggers which appeared during our escape from Riven, the very dagger which now stands vertically at one end of the Alatuan, has been adopted by the moiety as the symbol of their cause. It is a sacred symbol for them. It is their representation of all of their doctrine and their representation of me. To deface this symbol is sacrilege. They have their own mythical explanation regarding its sudden origins. I haven't told them that I wrote it into this age, along with all the other daggers. It's strange how such a young religion can be so unbending, even to their own god. I have tried to dissuade them of the notion that symbols contain so much power. The enemy uses this paranoia against them. They are fearful of Gehn's symbol, and are terrorized by his symbolic use of the wark. But they don't want to hear this from me. Perhaps my attempts have even caused some of the younger members of the moiety to doubt that I am Catherine. My rare encounters with those who say they follow Gehn have been discouraging. I have hoped to have some communication with the surface villagers, but they always flee from me. But I have learned of some of the villagers' beliefs regarding Gehn. Soon after we trapped Gehn on Riven, he claimed that he was responsible for the daggers, placing them around the island as a reminder of their failure. In the village circles, it is told that this was a punitive act performed by Gehn to mark the beginning of a period of restitution, at the end of which, if they have proven their devotion to him, they will be delivered unto a new and better existence. I will continue to try to reach them. The door is open. Gehn is free. Gehn has the ability to create working books. In fact, he had written one age before I arrived, but has kept this accomplishment so well hidden that only his closest ministers were aware until now. I'm not sure. Perhaps he has written others. Other news. A few years ago, before the moiety were forced into hiding, one of them managed to steal what appeared to be a test book that Gehn had intended to destroy. It had been partially written but did not work. They didn't tell me about it until now because they thought it was useless. Back then, none of Gehn's books worked, but instead of correcting the problem at its source, he blamed it on the impure wood of the Riven forest and proceeded to engineer a cumbersome mechanical remedy, a complex series of domes, to heal his book's inherent flaws. One of the consequences of this crude solution, however, was that the domes demanded huge amounts of energy, and the related problems delayed his success for quite some time. At last, however, he finished his work and was finally able to link to an age, but he kept this success extremely well hidden. However, for some reason or another, belligerent pride, he has made modifications to the domes which made it obvious that he is using the domes to breathe life into his half-dead books. Perhaps he means to lure us into using the books in the domes. He can't believe that we would blindly swallow this suicidal bait. But he wouldn't know that we have one of his books, the stolen burnt book. There's a possibility of... Have read burnt book. Age it describes would be unsuitable as new home for the moiety. Must be modified. I will dream. Have requested a group to solve combination that will open the domes. Once open, we can power the burnt book. I do not think Gehn will interfere. He will leave the bait. Have begun writing the moiety's age. Now must acquire second book from Gehn. There is tension. A strain blurs my vision, and nightmares. Neela and Eddie stay close. Much has happened. Almost everything is prepared. We have stolen another book, but I am concerned. Gehn will miss it. We also have discovered the combination for entering the domes, but we have not discovered the method for powering them. By powering our burnt book with Gehn's domes, we will be able to link to this age, but we will only have access to the domes for a short of time before we are discovered. Therefore, we can only use the domes once. I must find another way to make the books work. The gateway images in Gehn's book and our burnt book all seem to share the same sickness. If they are not powered, the images are black. It might be possible to clear the vision with only... We'll write substance into the moiety age. All is ready. Now all we can do is wait for word from the Moiterisk, who are on the lookout for Gehn to power and use the domes. When he does, we will have access to one of Gehn's domes just long enough. After linking to the age which I've written, I only have to locate the book window substance and refine or adapt it. Laying the window over the gateway image should heal the books and make them work. This will allow me to use the second stolen book and return to Riven with more of the book windows. We will then no longer have to rely on Gehn's clumsy domes. I laugh at these plans. I sound like Atrus. I'm risking my life, but I feel no fear. Only anxiety. Perhaps it is the source of my nightmares. The fissure, like a great wound, is opened. It stains the Riven soil with blood. I hold the moiety knife. The voices grow so loud. For their part, the moiety have complete faith that I will accomplish my task and lead them to a better world. It is the fulfillment of their prophecy. But they are also fearful and tense. I don't know what they will think or do if I fail. It is done. It seems too good to be true. I feel like it's all still a dream. We have already evacuated all of the moiety to this new age. It is beautiful, and I am pleased. At last, my people will live in safety and comfort. They stand under the bare sky, unafraid and dazzled by their freedom. They are happy. They have named it Tay. There's still much to be done. We are not protected yet. The only way to completely safeguard this place is to destroy the book which links to here from Riven. But I do not even know how to bring this up to the moiety. They will be extremely reluctant about destroying their only link to Riven. I share this hesitation. I would be cutting off my only connection, but for their sake it must be done. I am anxious to know if our activities have aroused Gehn's suspicions. If so, we must act quickly. Even so, I feel that we are now impregnable. Tomorrow, I will return to Riven to see Gehn's reaction for myself. But tonight, I finally rest. So yeah, lots of good information there. We got information about the Star Fissure. And there's this note that we haven't read yet. It's kind of back here a ways. I write quickly from my prison. Neela will return your book, which the moiety intercepted upon your arrival. After questioning her, I've concluded that it was written for After questioning her, I've concluded that it was written by Atrus for a very specific purpose. Gehn will desire to use it, although he may have suspicions. If you can find my prison, you will still need the combination to release me. Gehn keeps it in his office. Then, I assume we're to signal Atrus. I think I know how it might be done, but don't signal him before I'm released. Catherine. Okay.
Sira po. Ibuko mo buko wisipo. Na vene. Tapo mo revene beno.
There's one of the book windows.
Now, Katerina ne. Wisifa polo ya sepe yai.
Yeah, this is another interesting thing. Like, if you remember in Gehn's journal, when he found this on the Rebel Scout, he was like, oh yeah, Catherine must have made this using an explicit Dunny schematic that she brought with her, because there's no way she could have figured this out herself. you know, kind of showcasing his hubris a little bit. But reading Catherine's journal is like, yeah, no, she totally just figured this out on her own. Okay, so the last thing we really have to do here is to finish up that marble puzzle. And we should have all the information we need to do that. So let's go ahead and make our way back to the starting island. I think the quickest way to do that is just take the tram back. Let's go ahead and make our way back down there. Yeah, here's another interesting thing I'll show you real quick. So if we look here, here's the eye orb that made the frog sound. If we look here at the cave wall, there's the silhouette of the frog. And there's similar things for most of the other eyes. Obviously the fish one, like that was the only way to tell what that was. But for the beetle one, like if you fill the pool where that beetle eye is, it'll make the shape of the beetle. Actually, let me just go down here real quick. Yeah, we scared these guys off. Yeah, well, same to you. Come on, there we go. But like, so this is the one that made the sound of the big fish. And then if we look at where that is, this rock kind of makes the outline of the big fish. And then if we go to the one that makes the beetle sound, we can fill up this pool here, and it'll make the shape of the beetle. So like there's multiple ways of figuring out which animal is linked to which number for the most part. As far as I know, there's not a way to do that for the fourth one. The sound is the only way to really do that one because there's not like a silhouette that you can find near that one. Again, as far as I know, like if any of you know like where you can be to see something like that for number 4, let me know, but I've never been able to find anything. So I'll put that just in case the tram's not here for some reason. But yeah, like this one makes the frog sound, and it has the frog silhouette if you look at it from the cave entrance. So yeah, very, very cleverly designed puzzle. Takes a lot of kind of lateral thinking to figure it out. Okay, let's go back over here. This door is closed now. But if we go up to it, it's opening. And there's Gehn playing peekaboo with us. So yeah, that confirms that that is a holographic projector. Which means presumably he was just barely in that other room over here. Yeah, so... Oh, whoops. So yeah, Gehn was just barely in here, but obviously he's had time to run off and go somewhere else before we got here. We need to turn this so we can access the top of the dome. At this point, we're actually getting pretty close to the end of the game. Once we solve this marble puzzle, there's just a little bit left to go, and then yeah, there we go. So let's bring this back up. Okay, so these marbles have been left in the kind of random positions that we put them in before. So let's go ahead and take all these off. Put them in the right spots. Okay. So let's start over here. This is the island that had the boiler and the lab and stuff on it. And that island, the dome on that island was purple. And that dome was located in this square right here, specifically at this point on this square. This one here, that was the island with the maps and stuff. That island was, the dome on that island was orange, and that island's dome was right here. This is the big island with the village on it. That dome was red, and it was right here. This island is the one we're on right now, and the dome for this island is green. It's right here. And this island we haven't been to yet, so we don't actually know what color it is. But there's only 2 choices left. And so we couldn't just try both of them. I happen to already know it's blue, so we're going to put the blue one on, and it's right here. But process of elimination, it's really not hard to just try both options. And now the central power source has been activated. So now we can go back down here and go to one of the domes. It doesn't really matter which dome we go to because all the books in the domes are the same. But we'll just go to the one on this island because it's the closest one. Now we can go out and around. Yeah, we can hear the powers humming. Take this elevator down. Okay, what was that code again? We want 24. We want 19. 13. 12. And 3. Now that we have power, book works. Once it gives me my mouse back, we can link there. There we go. And straight into a cage. Got some more books, but none of them have power. So we're kind of stuck here for the moment. There's this little switch here. Here comes Gehn. See what he has to say for himself.
I apologize for the cage. I'm afraid this situation has often required of me a more primitive code of conduct than I might otherwise have chosen. I am Gehn. I assume you've heard of me. Yes. Well, I suspect you have acquired some false information of who I am now. Not that my son would have lied to you about me. No, not Atrus. It's just that, well, I'm sure he believes me to still be the depraved father I once was. Yes. I even tried to kill him once. God, if I had accomplished that, who knows what I would have become. A great father indeed, who tries to murder his own son. Thankfully, he trapped me on age 5, a prison of my own creation. No books, no precious inks, no ages to link to, nothing but my own foolish ambitions. That was 30 years ago. 30 years, 30 lifetimes, what does it matter? No sentence could be too harsh for the man I was. But I have changed.
Yeah, sure you have.
To be sure, the deeds of my past can never be completely atoned for, but my mission was an honorable one. I'm sorry, this is all a bit awkward. It's been a long time since I've attempted to persuade anyone of my intentions. Most of the people here have already made their minds up about me one way or another. I myself do not trust the words of most men, so I don't expect you to believe me. In the end, though, you may discover that I do have more than mere words to offer. Atrus's choice of punishment has been hard on the people of Riven, and many have suffered because of it. The island has been steadily decaying for years, but according to my most recent measurements, it appears that the 5th age has entered its final days. Unless the villagers can be relocated soon, the island will collapse entirely and everyone will perish. It has taken me a long time to do it, but it appears that finally I'll be able to make some substantial amends to my past transgressions, especially Well, I'm afraid I've had some trouble with Catherine and the moiety.
Yeah, I bet you have.
In any society, there will always be a small percentage of the population with rebellious tendencies. Before Catherine appeared, the moiety, as they call themselves, had been relatively harmless. I mean, the natives here are a fairly violent people by nature, but I'd almost come to accept their presence. It seemed inevitable under the circumstances. Upon Catherine's return, however, their violence intensified considerably. It seems she's become some sort of religious savior to them. And as far as I can tell, she's come to believe this herself. So I've had no alternative. I had to separate her from her people. I must admit, though, that my concerns were not entirely for her safety alone. The actions of Catherine and the moiety have put my own life at risk on numerous occasions. Consequently, the lives of all the people here. Therefore, I must ask you to refrain from any attempt to free her. Although I'm sure Atrus desires it. Indeed, he must desire it with all his heart. But he is completely unaware of her recent state. Which brings me to the point of all of this. The linking book you brought with you. You're very fortunate to have recovered it. If I may.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you.
Yeah, use it. Trust me, bro. No, don't read it. Yeah, he's suspicious. It's fine. Go in. Uh-oh.
Perhaps it would be best if you went through first.
No, I don't think so. After you.
You may need some time to decide. That is reasonable. Until then, as a token of my good intentions, I will allow you free access to my linking books, crude though they may be, and to the rest of the Fifth Age. Please understand, there is nothing I want more than a chance to resolve matters between Atrus and myself, especially in light of what has become of Catherine. But unless you are willing to demonstrate to me that your intentions are honorable, I cannot risk it. The sanctuary I've been writing for the islanders is nearly complete. After all these years, it would be a shame if I were unable to finish it. The work I am doing is quite demanding. Please don't signal me unless you've decided to use the book. The switch will reset itself once you link from here.
Alright, so he turned on all his linking books for us, which means we can go back to Riven if we want. Yeah, this will just take us back to all the... Each of these books links to one of the domes. But what that means So there's that 5th island that we haven't been to yet. So we can go there now. Just wait for this to finish playing. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, here's that 5th island. See what's over there. So yeah, this is that big tree stump. We got a sound puzzle. Don't have the code for that yet. This should look familiar. This is that prison that we saw from that scope. A little peeper scope. And there's Catherine.
You made it. But how'd you get past Gehn? He must really believe I've gone mad. I know what he's doing. He's watching you. He's waiting for you to make a mistake. He's hoping you'll lead him back to Dunny. You can't let Gehn... Atrus sent you to save me. But if Gehn gets back to Dunny, he'll kill him. I think I know how to signal Atrus, but it's going to take both of us. You'll have to trap Gehn before you can get the combination. Be careful. Go then. If you won't help me, then I have nothing more to say.
Okay, so it appears we can't really do anything else until we trap Gehn. So let's try and figure out how we can do that. But Gehn won't use that prison book until we use it first. If we use it first, we'll be trapped. But if we remember, from what Atrus said in his journal, that book will only hold one person at a time. So if we use it and then Gehn uses it after us, then Gehn will get trapped and we'll get thrown back out of the book. So, let's see if we can maybe outplay him a little bit like that. let's get Gehn back over here.
I'm relieved you've returned. I thought perhaps you had decided against it. Here, I shall follow you directly. Please.
Sure. Trust me, bro. It's fine in here. Yeah, come on in. And now Gehn's in the book and we're out. Now all we gotta do is find that code to free Catherine. Go down there in a minute. Yep, that door's locked. And that's the thing that's powering the books, so we'll leave that on. He's got a book here he's working on. Various ink pots and such. Okay, let's go downstairs. This is his bedroom. And we've got a journal we can read here, so we'll go ahead and read through that real quick. Again, if you want to skip to the end of this, feel free to do so, but I'm going to read it because I find it interesting. 86-929. I start this latest journal with astounding news. Catherine has returned to the Fifth Age. And though it sets my teeth on edge to say it, she has also vanished as quickly as she appeared, stolen from me by the rebels. As my guard tells it, she linked into the Fissure Plateau cage, as I'd guessed, when suddenly he was set upon by a band of rebels who darted him and spirited her away. I suspect the truth of the matter was that he was so dumbfounded at actually witnessing someone link in after all this time that he presented an easy target for whichever rebel had happened by at that moment. The damnable luck of it. He did get a good enough look at her, though, to verify that it was indeed Catherine. He also claims that he inspected all of her belongings and found no linking book on her person, a fact which, if true, makes the question of why she's returned here all the more puzzling. While I am sick with frustration at having lost the only quarry that cage has ever caught, I am also filled with hope. She may yet provide me with a way back to Dunny. It is true that I have managed, despite overwhelming odds, to break free of the confines of the Fifth Age and resume my mission to save my culture from extinction. But I fear that unless I am able to regain access to the vast resources that lie in the city's ruins, the task of reconstructing that great civilization will be impossible. If Catherine did bring a linking book with her, then I am halfway there. If not, then she is trapped in the Fifth Age, and I can only assume that my emotionally crippled son will soon be along to rescue her. Either way, it is crucial to my plans that I find her soon. Her presence here now forces me to take the rebels more seriously. I should never have permitted them to survive this long. Once again, the Great Wark has demonstrated its usefulness to me. This past week, the villagers have been most difficult to manage. Apparently they have learned of Catherine's arrival. and their fear of this mythic beast has been all that has kept them in line. The wark is that big tusked fish, by the way. Had I known how truly useful these prodigious creatures would prove to be, I would have perhaps captured more of them while the local population was still plentiful. Although, to be sure, if these disturbances continue, my current pets will be in no danger of perishing for lack of nourishment. So yeah, he feeds people to the warks. That's... yeah, this journal kind of lays fully bare just exactly what kind of a just not great guy Gehn is. 86-10-13. The search for Catherine continues. I now deeply regret my mistake of ever having taught these primitive people anything at all about the books. It seems that with each passing day I more sorely realize the extent to which they were not ready for that knowledge, not even in the simplified manner in which I presented it to them. Their minds, adapted only to the exceptionally menial tasks of village life, were incapable of comprehending the art in all its complexity, and thus were unable to extract the essential underlying principles that are, ironically, so elegantly simple. It is obvious that much of the discord that exists between us stems from their failure to grasp the meaning of the information that I gave them. Yeah, I'm sure it has nothing to do with the fact that you're literally ruling over them with an iron fist. If they'd been able to gain even the smallest glimpse of the future I'd planned for them, then this conflict would not exist. The minds of children are much more malleable. With the proper instruction, they have developed a much more appropriate posture towards the culture that gave them their lives. At times, they take to it almost as if they had a bit of Dunny blood in them. Given the natives' inborn limitations, however, I am quite careful that none gain a level of understanding that would permit them to sin against their future the way that Catherine did. How foolish I was to think that she could contain such knowledge responsibly when it was quite clear that my own son could not. Atrus. Still, he remains one of the greatest disappointments of my life. I should never have left him with my mother. By the time I'd returned for him, he had already been poisoned as to all thoughts of the Dunny. Perhaps it was the only way that she could rationalize the fact that she had been responsible for the collapse of their civilization. So much destruction. So many great lives lost. The guilt must have been unbearable. I do have vague recollections of the love she had for my father, and for our world, but ultimately she was an outsider whose ignorance of the Dunny became the catalyst for their demise. If I am able to rebuild our culture and in the process correct such crucial weakness, then perhaps what she did was ultimately necessary in order that a new era of prosperity might someday come to pass. 87-1-4. The last few weeks I have found myself frequently beset by images from the past. As I stood in the schoolroom today, I was reminded of my own childhood, the years I spent in the Bookmakers Guild, Father's immense pride at each of my small accomplishments there. He was an important man in the Dunny world, but I can't bear to think of him for long. It's too much. I was too young to see such a thing. 87-2-8. I've got her. Late last night I received word that Catherine was in the village attempting to persuade the people to join her. I lost 2 good men in the process, but I would have paid 100 times that number for such a prize. She's been taken to the prison island, where I've been attempting to gain some insight to the reason for her presence here. I've had to fight the all but constant impulse to put her on the gallows. She has adopted the most infuriating stance of only answering my questions, when she answers them at all, in her native tongue. Even so, she is a poor liar, and I am now quite certain that her return to Riven was unintentional, and that she brought no linking book with her. As far as her unwillingness to share with me the location of the moiety, we shall see. Without their leader, however, they are once again powerless against me. If Catherine's coming here was indeed an accident, then Atrus is bound to come for her. That much is a given. The question I must now consider is, how will he do it? It is likely that his hesitation has been due, at least in part, to this dilemma. One way or another, though, he'll have to bring a linking book to get back to Dunny. There is no other way. 87-6-20. It's late, and I cannot sleep. I've lost so much in my life. My people, my father, my son, and you, my wife, Keta. You were the only true kindness I have ever known. Watching you flicker there in the imager, sometimes I wonder if you were real. If I could restore your life with my pen, I would do so in an instant and leave the rest of the world to their own wretched fate. 87-730. Damn these savages. I would be well advised to leave them all in the Fifth Age and begin again with a clean sheet of paper. A stranger has arrived on Riven, hey, that's us, with a linking book back to Dunny, and once again my useless minion was overtaken by the rebels. From what little I could decipher from his muddled explanation, it apparently occurred sometime this morning. The cage has been damaged, but it is no matter. Everything I need is here now. Atrus is certainly behind this. Yet, how could he be so foolish as to send someone here with a linking book? Such blatancy is unlike him. Could it be that he has had a change of heart? After all these years, is he finally letting his poor old father go? No, he's only after one thing. Perhaps he should find her. For now, I need only to wait and observe. So yeah, that just gives a little more background into Gehn's character. Not really any puzzle solutions in here, mostly just lore and stuff, but it's still interesting. And it lets us know for absolute certain that Gehn is absolutely just not the kind of guy we want to trust. So yeah, we definitely want to leave him in that book. And that's the combination to the sound puzzle. Let's listen to that one more time. It's like ding, ding, click, ding, click. Yeah, this code and a few of the other codes in this game are different each time you play. Like, the code to get into the domes is randomized, this code is randomized. And the code that it gives in Catherine's journal to unlock the Star Fissure, that's randomized. Okay, so let's go free Catherine. And once that's done, we just need a signal Atrus, because we've got Gehn captured, and we're about to go free Catherine. So then we just need a signal Atrus and get the heck out of here. Okay. Okay, so it's ding, ding, click, ding, click. Let's see if it does it. No, let's try one more time. There you go.
We have to move quickly. Gehn's people may already know what's happening. Once we're back with the moiety, we'll have time to regroup. Can I see the book? You did it. We're all free. You captured Gehn. But there's still his followers. I'm not sure what I'll do once I realize he's gone. I'll have to get the villagers to safety as soon as possible. You go back to the Temple Island and reopen the fissure. I know it's risky, but it's the only way to signal Atrus. I'll try to make it back there as soon as I can, but don't wait for me. Don't forget, the portal combination's in my journal. Good luck.
Alright, so we gotta reopen the fissure. Which both Gehn and Catherine seem to think would have disastrous consequences, but that's how we're gonna signal Atrus. Stop this dome again because Catherine just used it. Yeah, like we did with the Myst playthrough the other day, I'm just going to do the good ending here, just because I've been recording for a while. I may go back and do some bad endings at some point if there's interest in that kind of thing, but I don't know. Let me know if you'd like to see those. There's a lot of bad endings in this game that you can get. Various combinations involving trapping yourself in the trap book and getting killed by Gehn and other things like that. Like, for example, if you go back to Gehn too many times and refuse to use the trap book, then he just straight up kills you after a few times of that. And there's a bunch of different endings that involve trapping yourself in the trap book in different locations. There's some bad endings where you can release Gehn from the trap book. You can signal Atrus prematurely. So Temple Island is this one. Alright, and the Star Fissure is pretty much right where we first started the game. Let's go there. So yeah, this Star Fissure, you can see it's like a big crack in the ground with big iron plates covering it. And in the beginning of the first Myst, this is the fissure that Atrus fell through with the Myst book. And that's where the Myst book fell through, and wherever this leads is wherever you were when you found it. Yeah, here's the telescope. Can't see anything, though, because that hatch isn't open. Let's see, what was the code for that? That was in here somewhere. There we go. 15445. So 15445. You can open that. Yeah, and this has power now. You can see there's a bunch of stars down there. Turn this handle down to lower that down. We can't lower it any lower than this. We get a little bit clearer picture because it's right up against the glass. But in Catherine's journal, she mentions like a mechanical stop that's designed to keep the small mechanical stop to prevent the scope from hitting the portal window. So if we undo this stop, then that'll let the telescope punch through the glass essentially. So once we do this, there's no going back. Let's do it. The fissure is open.
There isn't much time. Where's Catherine? Where's the book?
Atrus!
I don't...
The villagers are safely in the Rebel Age. I thank you.
As do I. You've accomplished more than I could have hoped for. You've given me back my life. The path home is now clear for all of us. This is where our paths must part. Perhaps we'll meet again someday. You know where to find me. Goodbye, my friend.
And now we're in the Star Fissure. Yay.
Now I understand. Endings and beginnings are within the fissure. That riven cleft of stars that acts as both a wall and a bridge. And though I am unable to understand how, the very flow of stars that brought my Myst book into worthy hands, I am sure served as a safe passage home for my friend. The age of Riven is closed forever, but the people of Riven are free. And now I am at rest, understanding that in books and ages and life, the ending can never truly be written.
Alright, so that's Riven. That ending kind of confuses some people sometimes, but basically what happened there, so that fissure is where the Myst book fell before the events of Myst. And so that fissure leads like directly to wherever we came from. And so by falling into the fissure, we're basically just going home, is what's happening. As far as where the fissure leads to exactly, and where the Myst book was when we found it and all that, that's all stuff that gets kind of dealt with later on in the series. Riven was initially intended to be like the conclusion of Myst's story. Like, the guys that made the game, they weren't really planning on there being any more sequels or anything. But the publisher was like, yeah, we want more Myst games. And so Myst, the third and fourth entries in the Myst series were made by publishers, or by developers other than Cyan, which was the developer that made the first two games. But with Cyan still providing, like, story and lore support and all that. Riven's definitely my favorite one of the whole series, though. Just the vibes of the game and like the way the puzzles are integrated into the story and the world is just really top-notch, really well done. Riven really set like a new standard, in my opinion, for environmental storytelling in video games and for puzzle environmental integration in video games. It just showed like the kind and caliber of storytelling that you could do in a video game. Just really, really cool what they were able to accomplish with this. I might have missed it here, but Martin O'Donnell is actually in the credits for this as a sound designer. He's the guy that wrote the soundtrack for Halo and a bunch of other Bungie games, so that's just kind of a cool little tidbit. Yeah, he did some work as a sound designer on Riven. Like I said, Myst was wildly more successful than the developers were expecting, so they had a lot bigger budget, so they were able to hire on some much better talent that they were able to get for the original game. But yeah, that's the end of Riven. Like I said during my Myst playthrough, this is definitely not typical of the kind of thing that we normally do on this channel. And I'm planning on keeping it that way. Really, the only reason I'm doing these playthroughs is just kind of publicly support the developers of these games. Just because, financially, the game industry is kind of going through a tough time right now, and them especially as a small, like, kind of indie studio, like, it's kind of hitting them a little hard right now, from what I understand. They had a project about a year ago that they were working on that they recently announced that they weren't able to get a publisher for, so they weren't able to move forward with that project. And so this has just been kind of my way of showing public support for them and maybe getting a little bit more visibility for them, so that way they can hopefully keep on making things, because I really enjoy their games and I'd like to see them be able to continue to make more games for us to enjoy. But yeah, if you're new here, I can't really promise that there'll be more of this kind of stuff. Like I said at the beginning of this playthrough, I after finishing the Myst playthrough, I just really had kind of that itch to play Riven. So I figured I wanted to play it anyway. So I figured I'd just make a video for the channel about it. A good excuse to do that. But yeah, if you're a long-time viewer of the channel and looking for more programming content, looking for more CPU design content, I promise more of that's in the works. I think the next thing that we're going to do on the CPU side is I've got that one instruction computer that I built last year that I've been meaning to design some printed circuit boards for, so that way it's not just a bunch of point-to-point wires that aren't really all that reliable and stuff. So I'll probably start working on that relatively soon. Mocking up some PCBs in KiCad and all that. So I don't know exactly when I'm going to start working on that, but I'm hoping it'll be soon. There's a lot of things going on in my personal life right now that are kind of taking a little bit higher priority than making content for this YouTube channel right now. But I'm still trying to make things when I can. Yeah, so look forward to that hopefully in the near future. But yeah, anyway, thank you very much for watching. If you watched this far in the video, congratulations, I guess. I don't know what to say, but thank you for watching. Thanks to all of my subscribers, and I will see you next time.